So I'll be talking on something which is often missed. The reason of this lesion being missed is because the suspicion is sometimes low. Patients have just pain as a symptom, and majorly if they are not doing any overhead activities, they may not feel any complaint. However, sometimes, and they are disregarded as just a frozen shoulder or a periarthritis shoulder. But a clinical history is very important if we want to diagnose it and not to miss these lesions, because patient complains of pain, and if you try and ask them the history about epilepsy or seizures or electric shock, they may give a positive history regarding it. And when you ask them to do a movement, to do an external rotation, the shoulder will try to abduct and they will be unable to do an external rotation. So this is very classical in this scenario. A young chap who has a history of fall or a seizure and unable to do external rotation indicates the high chances of having a locked posterior dislocation. So investigations, X-rays are very important, and you need to look through the X-rays, stare at those X-rays, and there can be something called a light bulb sign or a vacant glenoid sign. So humeral head is internally rotated in it, and always try to look at this. And if you have some suspicion of it, always try to get a CT scan. So never hesitate back and not to do a CT scan, because it will help you in diagnosing and planning about the future management of this problem. So the treatment options starts with the different treatment options, starting from the close reduction to supervised neglect, and then to open reduction, and different kind of procedures. But the time-tested procedure which has been taken and shown a satisfactory results is the transfer of subscapularis tendon with or without a lesser tuberosity osteotomy. So this was described by McLaughlin's, which was just a soft tissue procedure, and it was fixed to the reverse Hill-Sachs lesion, which was modified by Hawkins and Neer, in which they do an osteotomy of lesser tuberosity and then fix it to the reverse Hill-Sachs lesion. The planning is very important. There are various studies on it and various things which have been described, cartilage angle and a defect angle, which was described by Gerber group. And they calculate the amount of bone loss, in which they have looked into 21 shoulders. In any bone loss which was around 30 to 40%, of which they have done an allograft reconstruction, and they have followed up these patients for 5 years with a mean total elevation of 145 degrees and external rotation by side to 42 degrees. And these were considered as a satisfactory results in such kind of delayed presentations. Dr. Babulkar gave us some criteria to look into this, in which they described a major criteria and a minor criteria, which consisted of a critical fragment, reverse Hill-Sachs, the arthritis, and the duration of dislocation, and gave us few minor criteria. So the critical fragment was the fragment which was available for osteotomy. So it was basically medially from the intertubercular circles to the lateral margin of the reverse Hill-Sachs. And they further classified into CF1, 2, and 3, from severity from adequate, equal to, or non-existent, or a minuscule critical fragment. And the reverse Hill-Sachs was again classified depending upon the amount of bone loss on the humeral head. So depending upon the bone loss, you have to decide your procedure, or you may have to add on a salvage procedure when there is a bigger reverse Hill-Sachs. So these were the diagrams which indicated the amount of critical fragment and the reverse Hill-Sachs, which was present in a logged posterior dislocation of a shoulder. So then they came in a technique again from India, which was a check-in technique, in which they described, Dr. Magoo described coracoid osteotomy and passing it through the subscap slit, as we do it in a Latagia procedure, and fix it onto the reverse Hill-Sachs. And again, they have shown a good results with a good range of movement, which patient got at around 6 months. So there was ample number of literature which has described satisfactory results with McLaughlin's or a modified McLaughlin's procedure, even for a delayed presentation. So it's a time-tested procedure. Then comes in an osteotomy for these patients, in which patients we need an osteotomy. Especially this was regarded for a younger patient who have a large anteromedial humeral defect, and so that it doesn't engages onto the glenoid rim. However, there was some restriction of external rotation, and it can be useful in a younger patients, in patients who we don't want to do an arthroplasty. So a posterior bone block was again described for a patient who had a relapsing posterior shoulder dislocation, and they had around 10 shoulders, and they found out a good results at around 4 years follow-up. So the execution is very important. The initial steps are, we have to do this surgery in a beach chair position, and deltopectoral approach, which is a workhorse for most of the shoulder surgeries. We have to isolate the biceps tendon, identify it, and detach it, and then tenodese it to the pec major tendon. Subscap has to be identified from the rotator interval superiorly and inferiorly from the interior circumference vessels. Lesser tuberosity osteotomy, it starts with the biceps sulcus, and we have to be careful that we don't damage the glenoid while doing an osteotomy. So the reduction should be very gentle. We should not apply our full force while reducing the humeral head, because if we do it forceful, we can actually cause a new fracture. So, and after reduction, we have to evaluate the cartilage and fix the LT with 2 screws, or you can even use a suture anchors. So the rehab, either we have to give a abduction brace or a custom-made splint for 4 to 6 weeks, and which is followed by standard phase 2 and phase 3 rehab. So as we are an arthroscopy surgeon, we want to do all the things arthroscopy. So there are few techniques which have come up in which they do an arthroscopic reduction with a posterior labral repair and a kind of reverse remplissage in which subscap is dunked into the reverse hill sacks. So a few case examples. So this guy, he had dislocation 3 months back, and he was unable to do. So we did an open reduction with a modified McLaughlin's procedure. He developed some deltoid atony post-surgery, but it recovered 6 months following it. And he was able to do his turban and do all his overhead activities with reasonable amount of movements. This was a recently done case with a fracture of the humeral head, which was again fixed with suture anchors and screws. So to conclude, we should have a high index of suspicion whenever there is some restricted range of movement. A modified McLaughlin's procedure is a time-tested procedure. Chronicity definitely increases the difficulty and decreases the results, but still we are waiting for a fixed consensus on the treatment and the bone loss in these kind of situations. Thank you.